They had hoist, but you couldn't make the rate,
Yep,
That's how that worked.
voice was too slow.
I need one more person or we gotta cancel the meeting.
We've got some lady was just walking in.
Oh, that'll work good. I brought this up to the chairman. You know what he said? Put him on a freaking plane and fly him back if he wants to vote.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I have 9 o'clock. Almost, I'll check my phone, 9:01, and I believe I have a quorum, so I will call the meeting to order. Are we posted properly?
Yes, we are.
How's the minutes look, everybody? Approval of the minutes from the December 1st meeting. Do I have a motion?
I move we approve the minutes from the December 1 meeting.
I'll second it. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion, changes? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
I
Opposed,
to abstain.
opposition, the motion carries.
Okay, you can't vote remotely.
Oh, thank you, Julie. I appreciate that. Whew.
Okay, public comment on agenda items. Is there anyone from the public? There's none in the room present. Is there any on Zoom? Hearing none, we'll go to the next agenda item, which is announcements. I believe the director of the department is with us. You got the floor, Chad. How are
Good. Good morning, everyone. So a couple announcements. I'm sure you all saw the advertisement for our area association, the Lake Winnebago Land and Water Conservation Association meeting that's planned on January 20th here. The deadline to sign up for that is January 13th, I think the deadline is. So if you're interested in attending that, you just need to sign up for that. It's only $10, includes lunch, and then there's a couple presentations. Going to be a part of that meeting, and it's our planning meeting to kind of set the activity schedule for the rest of the year, the budget, and that sort of thing. And that'll be here on January 20th. I wanted to let you all know that I will be attending the National Association of Conservation Districts, their conference in February. I was awarded a scholarship to attend that conference that covers a portion of those expenses, so I'll be going in the middle of February to that conference.
Where's that at?
New Orleans, actually.
New Orleans?
Cancun.
Well, good for you.
Yes. It'll be interesting to see just nationwide what everybody's doing. Soil health is being talked about everywhere, so it'll be probably a
Your first one?
My first one, yeah.
Give them heck over there, Chad.
I do my best. The other thing I have is I found out this week, I got a letter from Mary Cook with our department, and she gave her resignation and is retiring. Her last day will be on March 29th. So we'll be advertising as soon as possible to get those shoes filled within the department. It's an important role within the department. She's my go-to person for budget, talking budget, a lot of number of things, grant reporting. Really helps keep the department running. So that'll be really important that we get that position filled as soon as she's done.
Well, we wish her well. She finally decided to retire.
Yes.
I know she's been talking about it, so.
Yep, I think she's excited. So, count down the days. The DADCAP, the 2022 and 2023 extension requests were submitted. We submitted that at the end of the year, and these were contracts that were signed with landowners, and the money is carried over from 2022 to 2023. This would be for what they call seg funds. That would be nutrient management and cover crops. We did cover crops this year. We signed up some acres for cover crops. It's only for 1 year. We did not get all the money allocated. A lot of the contracts fell through, so Sheila was struggling to get those dollars spent at the end of the year. So we're going to get a jump on it earlier in 23 to funds allocated. And then we had a couple projects with bonded funds as well for that. It was about $35,000 in total that we carried over to this year. And then for those on Zoom, you're not going to be able to see this, but I can get you a copy later. I have a copy of the 2022 Upper Fox Wolf Demonstration Farm Network, the report for 2022, and then the Basin Buzz from Fox Wolf Watershed Alliance. And we have a couple articles in there. The one was for the drone demo day we had, and then also for a small grant that we got showcasing a couple of the farmers in Winnebago County. So it's good exposure for our county, and it just showcases a lot of the good work we're doing. So I'll keep some copies for those on the Zoom call if you want me to either mail them to you or I can give it to you the next meeting if you're here in person. And the last thing I had is our annual Winnebago Land and Water Conservation Association Conference is going to be held on March 1st to the 3rd in Wisconsin Dells. It is a combination of staff and supervisors, so and committee members. So if anybody's interested in attending that, sign up for that. I understand it goes to the county clerk, I think, you attend those events. So it's a great conference, lots of breakout sessions, a lot of good information that's going to be held at that conference.
Anybody from the office going?
I am having 5 staff goals. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions for the director? Very now we'll move on to chair's report. I really don't have a report. Is there any questions of myself? Want to have anything? Hearing none, we'll move on to the business items. Review and approve the payment of the 2023 Wisconsin Land and Water Conservation Association annual dues. They did go up a couple of bucks, but nothing significant, I believe. Chad, explain those.
Yes, so these dues are paid annually. This is our organization, like I mentioned earlier, annual conference. They put on this conference, but they do many things for our department, everything from looking at technical standards to lobbying for funds. We have a biennial budget coming up, and this organization is really important.
You'll have to, you just talk to me if you want.
Oh.
Great organization. I would support.
And your video. You want to see?
I have a motion to approve the funding request of $2,074.
So move.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Any question? Hearing none, all in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, hearing none, it carries unanimous. Business item B. Update on the $221,000 NRDA grant for wetland protection on Lake Winnebago and Terrell Island Sammers Bay project. Chad?
Yes, I'm going to do my best here. I'm going to try to share the screen. And I wanted to give.
While you're doing that, I might walk in front of everybody else, grab a coffee quick.
Everybody see that on the Zoom call? The map? Hopefully. Yeah.
Well, that's not-
Anyone on the Zoom call, can you let me know if you can see that map? Is it showing up for you guys?
I can see it, but you sound kind of tiny right now.
I'll try to project my voice towards the speaker here. So I want to give you all an update on the current status. We received an NRDA grant for $221,000 back in 2019. I received that grant to do 2 breakwall projects on Lake Winnebago. We're going to be closing out that grant, so I'm just gonna briefly review what was done with that grant and kind of what's happening with the remaining funds and where it's going for finishing one of the other projects on the Winnebago system. So
If I might ask, you know the two, and that's on the south shore, right?
one would be on the north shore right here. This would be the first one.
That's north, okay?
Yeah. So this break wall, this is the Clark's Bay break wall. This shoreline was actively eroding. We're losing a couple feet a year on this project. And this break wall was installed in 2020. So you see the three segments here, and that is now breaking the waves. We have multiple openings in the structure. On this end right here, these are cane beds. So we kind of wrapped it around there to protect this little bit of cane beds. And we did some monitoring out there. There's been a tremendous response to the submergent plants behind this break wall. So overall, this has been a very successful project. This one.
Would you kind of explain where Clark's Bay is located
Yes.
for those that aren't familiar with it?
So I will zoom out here. For those that don't know, this is called the Hindenburg line here. This is the break between Lake Winnebago and Lake Boyden. So this would be just on the north shore here. Clark's Bay Corporation owns, I think, about 800 acres. There's about 9 or 10 members of that group. They're very proactive in doing conservation projects. We've done a couple wetland restorations. And if you look just to the east of this break wall, here's another one that I designed and we installed in 2003. That was all actively eroding. You can see all the plants growing out behind this break wall. It's crystal clear water, tremendous fishing, just an overall success. And I really believe that's what helps us get those grant funds when they look at these older break walls that's been done and how successful they've been. So this one is on the north shore of Lake Winnebago, is where the Clark's Bay project is at. So
That
was
would
done.
be, is that northeast of Winnebago? Clark's Bay,
Here's,
northeast,
yeah,
Northwest, maybe.
west?
northwest. Here's Winnebago down here.
Oh, okay,
So
yeah.
it'd be, yeah.
Right, it's a geographical reference here. Yeah.
Yeah.
How deep is it in there, Chad?
That project, we actually went a little deeper than I've typically done, but it ranged from 2 to 4 feet, which is a little deeper than we're typically doing in break walls, but I wanted to get all around this key.
And it's all muck bottom, I assume.
That was hard sand bottom. on this
Oh, it
one.
was?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was good bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah. Noffke, Luke Noffke did the construction on this one. He's from the Lake County area. He built this break wall.
Uh-huh.
So now if we go back down to Winnebago area.
And Chad, if I could just interrupt once.
Yeah.
As I remember, way back when they were putting in break walls, they were just throwing a bunch of rock right next to the shore to save the area. It would appear that now you're staying 100 feet or 100 yards out so that you can still protect that, but allow for all the growth. I mean, when they threw the rock right up against the shoreline, they didn't do anything for the water clarity or anything like that. It's
No, there was actually, that's a good point, Doug. There was a lot of that done on the system where they didn't really engineer it, so they placed a lot of it against the wetlands to try and do the best they could to protect them.
Yep.
A lot of that has subsided and it's failing. But it's not really reestablishing those wetlands that have been lost. And the concept behind these break walls is to try and recreate what's been lost over the years with the wetland loss. So go out in the water, you have that transition. The bad thing with going against the shore like that, against the wetland, is you lose that transition.
Yep.
For critters to move and interact in between that. These break walls, you still maintain all that and create all this other wetland behind. So
Was that called riprap?
riprap would be the technical term, I guess, rock riprap.
Yeah, I'll put it all on, busted up concrete sidewalks and all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah. One of the contractors called it riprap all the time. I just let him go.
Yeah, everybody, yeah.
So this is the one This is the Stabino break wall. So Winnebago, for reference, is just south here. So you can see it from the Winnebago Bridge right here, looking straight north. So this wetland complex was eroding as well. So the first two break walls, this one and this one, were installed in the winter of 2021, and then we ran out of ice. And winter of 2022, we were looking to finish the project. The original design was just out on this side, coming out, but we had awful ice conditions with the Wolf River currents. So we did a quick redesign of the break wall and brought it in a little bit closer to get on safe ice. And we still have the overlap, it's just on the inside instead of on the outside. So we were able to get this whole break wall built, and all that was left to build was about 60 feet on the end of this here to finish the project. And I got a price from Radke's, and it was almost $1,500 a foot. It was insane prices.
A foot.
Per foot. So it was.
And how
about
long is it
90,000
projected?
as far as what I needed to do.
Yeah,
I needed about 60 feet. It was almost $90,000 for 60 feet.
feet, yeah.
So it wasn't justifiable to spend that kind of money. You can see how I turned this in. This is a native cane bed right here. We're still going to get some protection from your northwest winds. I mean, it would have been nice to go a little further, but overall, if you look at the site here, we're protecting a pretty good area behind that. We're 99% there, what we want to accomplish with this project.
I look at that project every day when the wind's out of the northwest, and it's amazing how that has protected that whole area there. It was just getting beat to hell every time the wind blew, and now that whole area is a chance to regrow and reestablish and so forth. Will any of those cane beds come back with this kind of protection?
See, that's an interesting question. So we don't know yet. We have not done break walls around these cane beds until just recently. These two projects were done around them. So cane beds will spread out shoots, and then they try to root themselves. The problem is with the energy, they can never get their roots established. So time will tell. We'll see. We're going to be monitoring this for vegetation response and see what's going to happen. So it will be interesting. I don't know the answer yet to that. So
My understanding is the cane beds survived when they built the dams and they flooded everything 4 feet, but they've never really grown beyond that, so that anytime you lose the cane beds, they're kind of lost forever. So it's good to see at least giving the canes hopefully a chance to reestablish themselves.
And what's interesting, so when a lot of times behind these break walls, you'll get waves coming in, and then sediment will settle out behind it. You see actually the depths get a little bit shallower on the backside because that sediment settles out. So that might give these canes more soil to get established for the lake bottom. So time will tell with that. So overall, these two projects I consider a huge success. So I'm going to be closing out the grants. A couple days ago, I wired in $10,000 for the department before we had some time in there for the grant that I wrote for staff time. So I brought that in as revenue for the department. And there's about $17,000 that was still remaining. And what I talked to the grant people, the NRTA folks, and what we're going to do is transfer that to the Carroll's Island Sanders Bay project. I'll zoom in on that in a second here, but the prices came in substantially higher because of fuel costs, everything going up. So we were a little bit short on funds for that project. So we're able to take those funds to finish the rest of that project, which I'll show you all.
Who's doing that project?
That'll be highway landscapers,
Okay, so it's not Radke.
not Radke. So this is the Stabino and Clark's Bay, the NRDA project that will be closing out the department. So we'll give you an update on that, and then we'll zoom in Udamore here. So here's the Carroll's Island site. Turn off these parcels. Okay, so this big break wall used to be completely enclosed except for the cart gate, which was right up here. And there were a lot of problems with this, with birds molting, No water exchange, bad water quality. It's actually worse inside the break wall than out. And they looked at a lot of the break walls that we've done through our department, and every one of ours has openings in our break walls to allow some water exchange. So that's the idea behind this. And what they did is they removed 1,400 feet right here to provide a little more water exchange. And then we have existing beam beds here that'll hopefully protect it from some of the winds. But we took that stone, and then what we did is we built these break walls. This area here is called Sanders Bay. We were losing about 8 to 9 feet of wetland a year on this site. It kept eroding back. So we want to create new break walls, recycle that stone, and started building new break walls. They're 500-foot segments with 35-foot openings in between to get that water exchange that I mentioned before. One problem we had, there's supposed to be a break wall here that was partially installed. You can see it submerged here. This is actually a little cane bed. And the reason for that is part of this project was removing, probably not, yeah, there's some, kind of see some of the remnants of some islands inside there. There were cormorants and pelicans moping on those islands. So DNR wanted to get those islands removed. So we got part of those islands removed, and we used that stone to try and build break wall 11. And it wasn't the best stone, so a lot of it subsided. We're gonna have to cap off that break wall. We call it break wall 11, which is right here. That was
Just too small.
It just, a lot of it was ice chunks, too much sediment, and it just kind of settled in it. It wasn't good stone. We did the best we could to recycle with what we had, but we're gonna have to cap that.
Yeah.
So
But were you successful in removing the islands?
I would say moderately successful. They had a hard time. It was all frozen in the lake bottom. The contractor was really struggling out there to get it removed, but it's much better than what it was. There's less birds on there than what it was previously.
If they sit on the island now, they're gonna get a wet ass.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Yep. So this winter, it's not a good start the way it's going here, but we're gonna cap this off to get it to within 35 feet of this break wall. And there's a little bit of capping on here where we have to just touch up a couple of these break walls, because again, this was all recycled stone. So we did the best we could with the quality of the stone. And then later here. So here's the future of what we're gonna do. So the purple are the new break walls that will be installed. And then that will protect this whole area back here. The open water is about 111 acres that will be converted back to wetland. And then it'll stop this frontage of wetland from eroding 8 to 9 feet here with that. So we were short, like I said, the prices came in higher, about $450,000 higher. But we had enough grant money to cover a portion of that. We were short about $135,000. So we have the $17,000 from my other project we're bringing in. And then there's $115,000, one of the grant people, the Wisconsin Habitat Partnership Program is willing to pay another $115,000 so we can get this done. So we don't have that secured yet. We're hoping to have that secured before we start building, but either way, if the ice conditions are right, we're gonna start building, and then we'll get done with what we can with the grant money. I don't think they'll get this all done this winter if we get ice conditions, so maybe we get 2 years. Contractor did agree to 2 years to hold his prices, so we're good for 2 years to try and get this project done.
I might ask the question, you rely heavily on weather conditions in the winter to do the projects. Alternatively, you could use a barge system during the summer or open water.
Yep.
I assume one is much more cost effective than the other one.
Yes, like I mentioned with Radke's, that price was for barge at $14.65 a foot. Now, I don't know if you just didn't want the job, but you can figure about 3 times more expensive to barge it in compared to ice.
As opposed to running it with the ice.
Yes, yep.
However, projections for weather, whether you believe them or don't, and all that kind of stuff, obviously is going to put this type of system we're using in jeopardy. Is that a logical?
It's becoming more and more indeed. weather, as we've seen, it's up and down, it's just.
Just not cold enough, sustained long enough.
Right, so when you get the ice, you gotta move quick, because it can change in a matter of a few days. It's pretty rocky.
So the reality is, if we're gonna keep doing these projects, we might have to take the higher cost option,
Yes,
which is gonna be more difficult to secure the funding for that.
yes, the way the weather patterns are going, that we're talking about it right now, Boygan break wall. Because we're gonna be doing the next phase of that in 24, and we're throwing out barging versus doing it on the ice, so. Yeah, in the perfect world, if we had ice conditions, it'd be the most cost effective way, but if you have grants, for example, if you don't get the ice for 3-4 years, those grants could expire. And it gets complicated. So, yes, prices are, either way, they're gonna go up, but barging is the most cost.
And you do have future projects, at least in concept, that you want to accomplish?
Yes, so we did a shoreline inventory as part of the lake management plan. We inventoried all of the shoreline within our county, and we have areas identified that are the most highly erosive. So I have several on my radar that I would like to approach. Once we get these done, then I would contact these landowners and start the process of hopefully more break walls. So
When you say several, you mean more than one, obviously,
I have several sites right now.
and they're pretty much lengthy and that kind of issue, so.
Yeah, there are 2 large ones in my mind, and a couple small ones. There's several sites. So again, great projects. It gets a lot of attention across the region for this type of work, and it's the one tool in the toolbox that we have to try and reestablish some of these wetlands and all that legacy phosphorus that we have in the Winnebago system with that sediment that keeps getting stirred up. This is one tool that you can protect it. The plants anchor that at the bottom, and it helps that water clarity, and it takes up some of those nutrients with the plants, the phosphorus that's there. So, and the habitat end of it, from fisheries to wildlife, they're phenomenal projects. It's done right. So,
Two questions, Chad. One, did the price of the rock go up so significantly? I know when Radke did that, cited the cost of the rock. Is with the other contractors, did you see the same significant price increase in rock?
yes, we're trying to get him to bring his price down a little bit, but he would not budge. He said the rock prices have gone up, and then labor's gone up too. Those were the 2 big ones he said.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the other one, especially on the Winnie County one, and maybe I'm just worried about myself, but I got a lot of neighbors also. The other thing that has done is I believe it has slowed up the ability for the ice to come rushing down and take out everybody's dock and pier and everything else, because now there's a little bit more of a pinch point. So the chunks coming under the Winnie County Bridge are nowhere near as big as they used to be, and it kind of channels them more into the center of the river than up against the shoreline. And I mean, we used to have some ice heaves the size of Winnebago, and that hasn't happened since that's been put in there. So I tend to believe that has helped protect some of it also. And I think it would protect anywhere you put it, because the ice can do some serious damage when the wind's behind it.
I'd
So
like to take credit for that when I designed it, but that's really interesting. I think that's
you never even thought about it, but if you want to take credit for it, I'll back you up.
That's interesting.
That
Hey,
was,
Chad.
go ahead, Joey.
That site we visited a couple years ago on our tour, is that just on looking at this map, is that the yellow line that's closer to the shore here, or was it a different area?
Trying to remember, do you remember the name of it? Was it Burger by any chance?
I don't remember the name. It was, what was that, 3 years ago?
It could be, let me zoom in on a spot here. I don't know if this is it. This is on the south shore of Lake Boygan. I've done some tours here. I just don't recall if this is where it
Might have been that one you just zoomed in on. Yeah.
could have been this one.
Was it that one?
Yeah, this This was a really cool project too. So on the west side, I designed that in Old Creed, installed in Old Creed, and then the future one was done, I think in 18. So you can see the emergent plants behind those break walls. And this was eroding all the way back to the shoreline back here. And it's just phenomenal with diversity and good quality plants. I think we walked out on this dock. We drove in there and I think we walked out there.
Yeah, we did. It looks amazing though. There wasn't nearly that much plant life when we were out there.
Oh, it's even better now. We're gonna have to do another tour, I think, to.
It wasn't much of a dock, as I recall.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
It was a little sketchy. Yeah.
I have an additional question, based on what you're showing us, in break wall, excuse me, let me get a drink. Obviously provide a very high conservative conservation need. And as we go through the meeting today, you're gonna be reviewing a project list that lists all the conservation practices that we primarily do, correct?
Yep. Well, yes.
What's on this list compared to the break walls? How would you rate the break wall needs compared to the other ones?
Well, there's a need for all of them, but where the break walls are a little bit of a different animal is the cost. I mean, they're expensive.
But on a priority basis, forget cost.
I'm a little biased because I really like these break wall projects. I mean, I obviously enjoy working with farmers and that benefit, but what I like about the break walls is the public gets to enjoy the benefits of it. Everybody gets to go out there and see the better fishing, better duck hunting, better water quality. So it really, there's more value there for the overall public, whereas a lot of the other projects, it's non-point pollution, as you know, where we're improving water quality, but it's a little more tangible seeing those break walls. So I really do like those projects.
Which is also improving water quality.
Yes, 100%.
I bring that subject up because it might be an important discussion as we go forward. Especially if costs are going to get astronomical, which might prohibit us from doing what you're suggesting needs to be done.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at our county program, for example, we have a $20,000 cap. That's not going to get us very far into the break walls anymore. I mean, we're going to have to look for grants and, you know, spirit funds that we're going to talk about later become, in my eyes, more and more valuable. Some money there to leverage.
I think it's going to be extremely valuable. So
Totally agree.
thank you for your comments.
Sure. Anybody have any other questions on the update on the intermediate grant? Okay.
Thank you, Chad. That was B on the business items. We'll move to C. Update on the proposal for allocation of $3,030,300 from the Spirit Fund for conservation projects in the Land and Water Conservation Department, LCC, and Land and Water staff. As you're aware, the ARPA Commission has taken a first step vote to approve this funding. If it proceeds farther without any issues being raised, then the next step will be for the ARPA Commission to do it by resolution, which has already been done on several projects, which we'll be addressing at our next county board meeting, I believe. And then it will come to the full county board. Once that is done and approved, our responsibility on this committee gets somewhat more involved because we're going to have to establish policy for the expenditure of those funds. And the list that you have in front of you is the same list, I believe, that was given to the ARPA Commission and explained by Chad personally at the meeting to justify the request for the funding. And I think we have this on the agenda today. I think we can go over this a little bit. Chad, do you just want to summarize the list, or how do you want to address this?
Yeah, if you want me to briefly go over it, just to refresh the committee's memory on what we proposed.
Yeah, and then you'll have somewhat of an idea of the challenge we're gonna have before us to put our conservation practices within the scope of the funding that hopefully we're going to receive.
Okay, I'll just, I'll briefly go through this. If I guess go too fast, just let me know, and if we have questions, just interrupt and let me know and I can stop. But I'm gonna walk through some of the different practices that we have on the sheet. The first one is the harvestable buffer program. This is one that I think would be really valuable for the department to create a program where we would allow farmers to go in and harvest it for livestock. It's going to be a little bit easier to sell with farmers if we allow that, and it's going to filter out any pollutants, and it also, the buffer brings out nutrients and pesticides as well. So it's a really good water quality benefit. It's going to be a little easier to sell. So the committee would establish those rates I have on here, $200 an acre for 10 years and $225 for 15 years is what we have for that program, but the committee would decide that once funds are approved. Soil health program, this is where we create funding for cover crops and no-till. I had on here 80-50 for 3 years to sign farmers and contracts for those efforts. Wetland developments, restorations, or sediment control basins. We had 15 projects of 30,000 each in here, and those are working in areas where maybe a farmer can't get it in farm every year, where it was historically wet. We go in and restore those wetlands by constructing scrapes, putting up embankments, building ditches, or remove tile. The waterway systems, we do a lot of these. I have 30,000 lineal feet to work with farmers to regrade their waterways and establish the waterways. And then I had a barnyard, milk house, feed waste runoff control system, and manure storage closures. We are actively doing a barnyard inventory in the department right now, so we're identifying some of these sites out there for barnyard issues. So this would provide funding to work with those landowners to come up with solutions to control that runoff for that. And
If I might interject there, I think we'll have to have a discussion at some point as to what barnyards we're going to be including. Obviously, you have the smaller farmer dairy operations or cattle operation, etc. In contrast, you have the capable farms. So that's a discussion for another day, I suppose, but it's something we'll have to decide whether or not we're going to appropriate funding for that.
yeah, the cable question was one. Initially, with the ARPA funds, it states the cables are not eligible, but the way this money is being brought in may take away that requirement to not fund cables. So we just need to find.
Yeah, so it's kind of up in the air a little bit.
Yeah, and as far as the barnyards, we run it's a model called Barney, and it gives us estimates on what the pollutant load is for phosphorus coming off those barnyards. So
Based on the cattle numbers.
based on cattle numbers, based on water coming into the yard, how far it is from surface water, so that helps us prioritize where the worst sites are. And there's a certain number you need to get under to be in compliance. So
Okay.
that would help focus our efforts. Manure storage closures, we do have a number of those. If they are sitting idle for more than 2 years, we are technically supposed to abandon them according to our ordinance. So this would provide some funding to help abandon those properly. And then I just have other BMPs. There's a number of tools in our toolbox that we use for design. So I wanted to just keep it kind of broad of having $300,000 for that. Then if you flip the page, this is where we have the break walls. I had 4,000 feet at $150 a foot. Now that number might be a little light. That's estimating based on ice, for prices were around 100, 125 a foot. Everything's going up, so that number may change a little bit, but I had about $540,000 identified for break walls. shoreline habitat restoration, those are shoreline buffers. We work on developed sites. So if people are mowing their lawn right up to the edge of a lake or stream, we would establish a buffer from 20 feet to 35 feet wide of native plants to filter out any pollutants and provides great pollinator habitat. And those deep roots help infiltrate the water better, hold that shoreline. Well abandonments, as you all know, we've actively been doing that. So I just threw in 50 wells at $1,200 each. Have some additional money for that. Rain gardens is another thing we deal with. It's a small practice. I put 20 rain gardens in for that. And that gets us at a little over $3 million for the ask. And I just want to point out that this is assuming a 90% cost share rate. I know initially we were talking 100%. I'd like to see a little skin in the game, and I know, and Chuck can probably elaborate on this, to get hopefully approval for this. I know there's some county board supervisors that weren't in favor of 100% cost share rate. Is that correct?
There was one in particular, who obviously would be a loud voice that opposed the 100% funding and raising the same issues you are, that kind of stuff. So I think obviously our project's good, but we still have to address the concerns that are raised by members of the county board. So I think the 90% accommodates that position, at least at this point.
That makes your money go a little bit further too, like in the 90s.
Yes, yes.
Practices.
I do want to clarify that I had a discussion with Chad. This committee sets policy for the department. However, there's still an outstanding question of whether or not, once we establish that policy, does that need to go before the county board for approval and adoption? We're still, I think, chapter 92 is a little vague on that issue, so we'll still be working that out. But I do advise the committee, we're going to be spending months probably establishing this policy. So we'll be doing it as part of our regular meetings every month, just, picking parts of it to hopefully get it done. So that question will be answered in the future.
Chuck, what tentative year would spirit funds be available then?
Say again, sir. I didn't hear you. My hearing ain't best.
What tentative year would the spirit funds be available? Would it be this year? Next year?
Given the process of the county board, I'm hoping it's going to be available by this fall, if we have a policy established. Would you agree, Chad?
I would agree. That makes
Yeah.
sense.
Hopefully by fall.
And then Chad, how are you going to handle signups? You're going to make it known and then signups accordingly?
Yeah, what I would look at doing once these funds are approved, we would obviously do some outreach. So I would create a brochure, we put a blast on our website, and then it's kind of on the back page. But my approach would be, we have that 9 key element plan in the works right now, and I would start working in the highest loading watershed, food loading watershed, to start doing outreach. We'd run modeling to look at the bad sites, and that would be our focus, to do the outreach. But those funds would be used throughout the county, but to start our efforts in making contact, that would be the first approach, to start working in one watershed at a time with outreach. And this would be estimated over about a 10-year time frame. So it's still going to be a good undertaking. If we're doing, $300,000 a year, we'll see how things go. But
Right.
gives us a little more time where we're not scrambling and trying to get these dollars spent. It wouldn't even be feasible to get this done in a couple of years. So I really appreciate that flexibility to look at it more long term.
And then if there's a certain practice where the people are not signing up for, you have enough flexibility to rotate monies if needed from one practice to another?
I would like to think so. I mean, I think once the committee approves, I guess, I'll say again, the tools in the toolbox, with as far as procedures, the dollars that I had identified in this, I would hope there'd be flexibility to shift them one way or the other. This is just a kick the can and estimate of what I might need, but in the real world, it's gonna look different than what we see on paper.
Right. Okay.
Good question, Bruce.
Yeah, there'll be many questions that we'll want answered. You know, we have
Oh,
a
yeah.
cap in our county program. I would recommend not having a cap like that. It's just gonna limit us to get these things done. But there's a lot of things to talk about and where we go.
A lot of stuff to go over, so.
Well, Chuck, can you keep us informed on the county board's direction on this monthly until it's taken care of then?
I will, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
So some of the questions would be, you know, like our county program is bringing in agreements. I'm assuming we do something similar as we sign up contracts that have to bring those to approval, but I don't know how that all looks yet, just from a management standpoint.
Totally agree. And we also, we still have a budget. We still have budgeted money for our county programs. So hopefully that levy budget continues. In addition to this, I think you're going to get into several issues. I mean, like our county money is at 70%.
It's 70 and then a 90% if they go above and beyond, right?
Well, primarily, let's say it's 70. So you could use part of this money to supplement that 290. There's all kinds of options we need to look at as to how we're going to go forward with this. So
yeah,
a lot to go over.
Yeah.
And like I say, we'll do it over a series of a lot of meetings. So hopefully we can get it done by summer, late summer, so we can start implementing by fall. But be prepared for maybe some lengthy land conservation committee meetings in the future. An important thing that we need to do and to get it right at least the first time around the best we can.
and I appreciate the support with this. I managed multiple grants in my career, and they can be a pain. The MDV one, a little bit of money. I know I've talked about this before, but all the time we put into that, a little bit of money we get. I just feel like if these dollars get approved, it's going to really help manage this department most efficiently for the next 10 years. And this would be monumental if this gets approved.
I've got another question.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
The number of the $3 million or what the funds are there for us or what the county has, will that, I'm assuming that's in an interest-bearing account. So will that number increase over the 10-year period?
You bring up a very valid question. I've raised that question at the ARPA commission meeting, which I'm a member of. I don't know that I received an answer. My perception would be we probably are not going to have the interest from the 3 million available to us. I wouldn't count on that.
Okay, just asking a question.
Thank you.
Once I covered that last page.
Okay, good. Any other questions for Chad? Any comments about where we're going, folks, and the commitment that we're gonna have here? We're all ready for this? I assume we are. Okay. Which one was that? C, right? D, review and approve the Winnebago County Water Quality Improvement Program cost share agreements. I think we got 3 new ones on there.
4.
Yeah, 4. And you did a new list for us here to it, right?
I did. So these agreements, you all gave me approval back in December, so we could get these carried over. The 4 contracts that we would be approving today would be 2 well abandonments. We have a grass waterway for Dave and Rebecca Weiss and a wetland restoration. for that project. And then the Albright Brothers is an agricultural sediment basin. So that is going to collect the water, and then we would put it in an underground pipe to get it to the drainage ditch that it needs to go to. Otherwise, we would have had to remove a lot of trees. It was a very long stretch. It would have been quite costly to get that done. And this way he can maintain more of his farmland. So we're taking a little bit different approach with that one. We have the $20,000 cap in the county program, and then to get him at a 70%, we would do state. So we can do that.
How big is that project?
I don't know.
Sediment basin, we must be talking acre or two or something like that.
I haven't seen those details yet.
Okay.
We got a quick cost estimate from DADCAP to help us put that together. I'm not sure how big that basin actually is.
And this money, this funding is from 2022.
Yes, this is all 2022, and this will be carried over into 23 to be allocated.
Did we expend that total fund in 2022?
We did. We spent
Okay.
what the 87.5 we had, we allocated all of that.
So any future projects now that weren't established in 22 will come from the new fund
Yes,
of the 23 budget.
yes, and that's at 94,000.
If I could, you mentioned piping the water quite a distance. When you do that does that mean you gotta be 4 feet down? And if that pipe gets plugged up with raccoons or whatever, is there, I know how hard it is to run out of a sewer. What do you do with, how big a pipe are we talking? And
I don't know all the details yet, but I think the pipe is gonna be a 12-inch pipe, so it's a pretty big pipe. We put rodent guards on the end to keep rodents out, and I'm assuming there'll be some cleanouts along the way. I have personally not designed one of these for our department. It's kind of a new practice that I haven't been involved with, so I'm gonna be really interested to see what's all involved with it, but I know it's 2 bigger pipes, so hopefully that'll prevent any.
Who designed it?
We'll be designing it. Yeah, we
You
have. a-
will be, okay,
we
so
will-
it's
we have a
a
rough
proposed
concept.
design.
It's proposed. We
Who are
have-
you assigning it to? Melanie? or-
Melanie, we worked with Drew Zelli, our DADCAP engineer.
Mm-hmm.
So he got us the estimates, so we could get the contract signed, and he'll be working with Mel to sign.
Do you know exactly where it's gonna go? Is it gonna go across the highway there?
No, from what I saw, it's just going through a farm field. The Albright Brothers, I think, bought this land recently. But I don't think it's crossing any highways. I think it's just going through the property.
Is it gonna be by their buildings?
No, I think it's northwest, I'm guessing correctly, from their buildings on a different property, but I can double check that for sure.
I just live out there and I see everything. It kind of all goes uphill from their buildings
Okay,
to that,
Yeah, I think
that
this
direction.
is-
That's why I was kind of curious.
this is away from their main farm, my
Okay.
understanding, so. Yeah, they're getting a lot of erosion, and then it's running along the whole drainage way, there's big trees, it's all gully.
Well,
So instead of taking out the
okay, they
trees,
just bought a piece last year. 100 acres, that's got a lot of,
that might be the
I
one.
bet you that's the one.
Yeah, it's pretty recent.
Because it don't look like it washes, but that ground just disappears.
Yeah, so instead of removing all those big trees, regrading and the money with that, this is.
So this is
That's
a
gonna be interesting.
stormwater space,
In a way.
not a barnyard.
It's not about-
You know,
space.
it's in that-
So the water coming to the public road there is clean water.
This is going across the field, gully and getting into it.
It'll probably start at the road.
Probably start.
Oh, it's
If
not
it's the
coming
field I'm
through the
thinking
road.
of, it's gonna
Okay.
start at the road and it's gonna head to the north.
You're gonna exit
Yes.
out into a creek or whatever.
Yeah, we'll
Kind
have a
of.
suitable outlet to go on that. Yeah. Yeah, so the idea is it'll stop that water, the sediment will settle out, which will have to clean out once in a
So to clean
while,
it up.
and then the water will go through the pipe. So that sediment will settle out, so that's correct.
Just like retention ponds for commercial properties.
Just the agricultural version.
Yeah, just the ag version.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. Excellent.
Do I have a motion to approve the water quality improvement cost share?
I have a question.
Yes.
WCB, is that a containment basin? Is that what that CB stands for?
Is that on the project list, Julie, you're talking about?
Well, I was looking at that Albright one and it's a WCB, WR.
Oh, okay. Water. It's a WASCOP.
Yeah, that's,
You see
what is a WASCOB, Jack?
what we're talking about, where it collects that water. This is a little bigger scale, but this would be, the WASCOP would be where you collect the water, it goes into a pipe, and then you pipe it out. So it's somewhat similar, not as much of the sediment basin like this, it's a smaller version of that, I guess is the best way to explain it. And then WR is wetland restoration.
Yeah, I know, but I just was wondering what the CB stood for on the WCB.
Yep, that would be a WASCOP. It's water, agricultural, stormwater. Yeah, I'm not gonna.
Kind of a new
guess.
acronym, yeah. We might want to rename that to something real simple.
Yeah.
Because yeah, that was just my question. I haven't seen that before, I don't think.
Good question. Do I have a motion to approve the cost share agreements as submitted?
So moved.
Have a
Second.
motion and a second. Any further discussion or questions, comments? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Opposed, opposition, the motion carries. That was business item D. E is review the Atlanta Water Conservation Department project list. You should have that, this is documents. If there's any questions on that list?
But just for some clarification, at the end of the year, I always do a year end of what we have. So what you see, the 2022 year end would be all the projects we had. It shows which ones were installed. We have 3 new well abandonments on this list. And then what I do is I remove the installed ones and then create a new list for 2023. So you won't have to squint as much for a while because 23 got a little bit smaller, removing those installed projects. So then we'll keep adding to that each month like we've done in the past and give you updates on where we're going with new projects.
Are there any questions from the committee? Hearing none, I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
So moves.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor of that, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, hearing none, the motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you for your attendance on this snowy, slippery day.
Hey, Chuck,
Yes, sir.
it's 76 and sunny here.
Oh, just rub it in, Bruce.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I just had to give you a weather update.
It was a lovely snow this morning. It was nice and quiet, not too deep to walk. It was great.
It was kind of pretty,
Okay.
Bruce. It was kind of pretty, you know.
No
Thank you.
wind,
Take care down there.
I will.
mid-30s. It's great, Bruce.
Okay.
Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Hi, all. Excuse me, Bear.
Well, everybody take care.
You too, Chuck.
Keep healthy.
Time.